Okay, fine. Uh, Good morning. We'll start with the next subtopic in your unit 3. This is nothing but more of like a tool used for design of steam turbines. So more of like we'll be looking into what are the different factors. And one particular thing what we look at actually, we look into the actual condition of the steam that is available in the nozzle and blades. So looking at this particular thing, we'll try to uh, define some of the terms like efficiency, reheat factor, maybe how you can increase the isentropic heat drop for a given stage. Maybe if it is a multiple stage steam, multiple stage turbine, all those things we'll try to look into it. And also, when you are trying to increase this particular thing, there are certain correction factors which can be adapted so that I can assimilate the actual working condition compared to your theoretical conditions. So that we can be doing. That's what we'll be doing. Okay. So what it exactly it is, state point locus means it is the tool for design. That's what we call it. So the state point locus. The state point locus means it is a tool for designing the steam turbines. So that's the meaning of it. That's it. Okay. So the first thing what we will look into it here actually is your efficiency of the turbine. That is stage efficiency of the turbine. Stage efficiency of the turbine. Okay. What is it actually? See, the stage efficiency is nothing but it's the ratio of the stage efficiency is the ratio of your shaft power. We call it as shaft. So that is the power available at the shaft. That is or rotor power, whatever it may be. Shaft power to what exactly you have. That is isentropic enthalpy drop or whatever it may be. So isentropic. So we can call it as isentropic drop. That means shaft power means if you actually actual enthalpy drop to isentropic enthalpy drop. So enthalpy also can be taken as a heat drop. Now, so let's try to look into the HS diagram, how it looks like. So if I have an HS diagram, so the HS diagram is something like this. So we have the H on the y-axis and enthalpy on the entropy on the x-axis. So HS diagram we take, and I do have the constant pressure curves which are diverging in nature. So this is what we are going to see. They are diverging in nature. And if I try to expand it, it's being a turbine. So this is the point 1. So it's an isentropic expansion will be in this direction from 1 to 2 dash. If it's an actual expansion, so there is an increase in entropy. It will be going from 1 to 2. So this is my higher pressure P1 and lower pressure P2. Okay, this is how it is. Now, the when I try to look into the isentropic power or the power for the stage, power based on the isentropic heat drop or enthalpy drop, whatever it may be. So what we try to look at actually, we try to look at the flow of steam, the flow of steam. So if I consider something like m dot is the flow, that is flow rate of the steam in kg per second. So here I'm going to consider what something called as an internal flow, nozzle flow, and there is something called as a diagram glass. So there is a whatever the flow that is entering, it will be going through the nozzle. At the same time, there are few things, something called as glands actually, nozzle glands which are available in your stator. So the combined will be your internal flow. So if I call m dot I as the internal flow, which will be equal to the flow in the nozzle plus flow in the gland. Okay, flow in the gland. So if I call this as m dot I, this is the total internal flow. The total internal flow maybe of the stream. This is in kg per second, and there is a nozzle flow, that is steam flow through the nozzle, through the nozzle, that is in kg per second, and the glands which are in the nozzle. Okay, that means if I take the nozzle, within that the glands means these are the supporting elements within your stator. So there may be some retention of the steam in your glands. Okay, this is steam flow through the maybe diaphragm gland, diaphragm gland actually, which is there in the stator. So that is in kg per second. Okay, you take for any kind of impulse machine, any kind of a machine, this will be the mass flow rate which is available. Now if I try to write the power equation, what is your power equation? Mass flow rate into your enthalpy drop. Okay, mass flow rate into enthalpy drop, that is your power. Okay, the power available for any kind of a turbine. So impulse turbine means, so it will be only with respect to the nozzle, because most of the expansion that takes place in the nozzle. Okay, now if I take a impulse reaction turbine, so a part of the expansion takes place in the stator and part of the expansion will take place in the blade or the rotor. So if I try to add up everything and multiply the mass flow rate, I'll be getting the power. Okay. Now if I consider only the impulse machine, okay, the heat drop, that is the power, the pure impulse machine. For a pure impulse machine or for an impulse turbine, for a for an impulse turbine, power is given by, okay, this is the equation. If I call this as some maybe P, okay, so this is the power. This will be equal to mass flow rate, that is flowing, multiplied by delta X, that is isentropic enthalpy drop. So this may be with respect to only nozzle, the expansion that's taking place only. This is a pure impulse. But for a reaction machine or for an impulse reaction turbine or a machine, okay, the power is given by, the power is given by, so here this actually, this is in your mass flow rate is the same, but I need to look at the isentropic enthalpy drop in the maybe stator, let me call it as stator or the nozzle, plus the enthalpy drop that's happening or in the rotor or your blade, whatever it may be. I have to, so maybe the unit will be kilowatts or watts. This will be in kilowatts or watts. This will be the power that's required. So if you want, you can call this as impulse machine. If you want, you can call this as impulse reaction machine, IR or PR. So whatever the way you want, you can write it. Okay. The important point which you have to notice actually is the shaft power. Okay. Now, what is the shaft power actually? The shaft power is nothing but the power what I'm maybe I'm developing here minus losses. Okay. Now, what does it actually say? For example, if I take up the a turbine, if this is the turbine, This is the turbine what I have. Say this is rotating like this. This is my turbine, just rotating. Okay. Now, if I want to look at what is the power available at this shaft, this is my shaft. Okay. The shaft power is equal to your rotor power. So this is your rotor power, what I am trying to say. So now rotor power minus the losses. Minus the losses. So what are the different types of losses we can have? Okay. If you look at it, this particular thing, what are the different losses we may come across? Okay. What are the different types of losses we may see? We may have, see, most of the time these losses are mainly because of friction. Okay, friction. That is, we can call that as wheel friction losses. So those are called as wheel friction losses. Major. Okay. In wheel friction losses, actually, there can be disc friction. Okay, and there may be maybe I can call that as improper admission of the steam or leakage. Okay, improper admission of the steam, or there can be leakage, there can be some kind of a vibration, frictional vibration that may lead to all these things. So all these losses, see, all the losses what we see, all this will lead to a drop in your shaft power. If I'm able to overcome this kind of losses, if this is minimized, see, this losses whatever, this should be as much as possible. This should be minimum. If I use a proper bearing, because we all know that the turbines will be running at very high speeds, maybe 10,000 RPM, 12,000 RPM, 16,000 RPM. So at that particular thing, balancing your steam turbine is one particular difficult task. Okay. If you're able to do that balancing and bring down all losses, most of the losses what we have seen, then we'll be able to have a higher shaft power. Okay. Now, when I speak of the shaft power, actually, it all depends on your expansion in your turbine. How you're going to expand it. Now, when I'm trying to expand it, your blades has to be properly designed. Everything will drill down to your shape of your blade. Okay. Now, when I try to look at the uh, when I try to look at your HS diagram, maybe this particular thing, if I try to look at it, so most of the times, what we'll be doing actually, see, suppose this is my, okay, fine. If I try to put it as something like, uh, this is my dome. Okay, I want to put a dome something like this. Okay, because I've been telling you that at point one entry to your turbine, most of the times this will be superheated. Okay, this is superheated. The point one, see, one is superheated. Okay, superheated. What I see is actually this is a completely superheated state, and I can move higher and higher. I can move from higher pressure, maybe 350 bar. I can go to 400 bar, 450 bar, like that. So that's why if you look at the steam power, maybe steam power plants based on nuclear energy, I can go to very high critical pressures, which will be much above your what we see in your steams. So I'll be able to reach this particular point one very high. That means when I reach higher pressure, at the same time, because we all know that H is a function of temperature. So when I'm at higher pressure, I'm at higher temperature. Okay. Now, when I try to expand it, actually, if there is losses, say I'm going to follow a path 1 to 2 with minimum loss. If the losses are increasing, if the losses are more, okay, if the losses are more, this curve will move towards right hand side. So what will happen if that's the case? If losses are more, so what I told, if this friction or something like this, I'll be moving towards right hand side. Okay, I'll be moving towards right hand side. So the 2 gets shifted. This particular point 2, no? So the 2 gets shifted. 2 dash, 2 double dash, 2 double dash with losses. What are the disadvantage? If you try to look at this is the enthalpy drop. Look at this. If I try to look at the enthalpy drop, actually, this is my enthalpy drop. This is my H1, and suppose this is my H2 double dash. So which was supposed to be H2. Look at this. H1 minus E. Delta H is equal to H1 minus H2. This should have been your actual. But with the losses, with increase in losses, your delta H will become H1 minus either H2 dash or H2 double dash or H2 double triple dash and all. So this keeps increasing. So losses due to friction, losses due to blade properly not fixed, the moving blade, losses in the nozzle, lot many things are there. Losses in the moving blades itself. If there is a escape of the steam in between the maybe gaps, in between the gaps, leakage losses. So all these factors will lead to drop in your maybe what we call it as a shaft power or a work done expansion. Okay. Now, this is for a single stage. So what will happen if it is a multi-stage? Okay. So this is what I want to do, what I want to see here, this H1 minus H2 dash keeps on dropping, keeps on decreasing. So if I call this as 1 to 2 dash, 1 to 2, okay, see, 2 double dash, 2 triple dash, 2 1 4, whatever it may be. So you look at that particular thing, this keeps on decreasing. At the same time, if I go for a multiple stage, okay, if I go for multi-stage, what will happen? Okay, I can, so for a multi-stage steam turbine, for a multi-stage steam turbine, what will happen? Okay, fine, let me draw the HS diagram and try to understand it. So let me draw 3 stages, that's enough. Because same logic can be applied for maybe if it is more than 3 stages also. Okay, this is my HS diagram. This is my enthalpy interpreter diagram. And I do have the corresponding pressures. So I need to draw 3 stages means I should have 4 pressure curves. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, if it's a simple expansion from 1 to 2, so it may be from, this is what I want to see. This is a simple expansion from 1 to, I can call this as 2 dash, here it is 2 dash, here it is, I call it as 3 dash, here I can call it as 4 dash. Now, a simple expansion, okay, 4 stages, this is what I could see. Okay. This is what simply I could see. So this is the expansion. So I can call this as 2, 3, and 4. So this is a simple expansion what I could see. If I want to draw, I can draw a dome also. So I can draw a dome. The dome is something like this because the first stage is the superated condition. So something I'm trying to draw. Okay. Now here also I could see each stage. If I go for a multiple stages, what will happen? Okay. Now this is the point actually. See, at this particular point, you try to look at it. What will happen? I can draw this particular thing. So look at this particular thing, how this expansion takes place. Then that's it. We call that as condition line. Expansion of the steam when I go for multiple stages. Maybe if it is a 3 stage or it can be 6 stage, whatever it may be. So the initial pressure, I can call it as P1 P2, P3, and P4. So it's dropping. So now what I see at the lowest possible P4, this is called as your maybe exit pressure or back pressure. Okay. Now the initial pressure P1 and the maybe P1 and the back pressure P4, the locus of the state point. What is the locus actually? What we try to do actually? We try to look at this. See, this is what we are. These are the locus points. These are your locus points. Now, if the losses, depending upon the losses, so I may be getting a curve something like this. I may be getting a curve something like this. Or I may be getting a curve something like this. Or I may be getting a curve something like this. So depending upon the losses. Depending on the more the losses, the curve will shift towards right. Less the losses, the curve will shift to the left actually. The stage efficiency. Okay. So stage the locus of each state point, we call it these are the state points. Locus of each state point. If I follow this particular curve, this is my state point. If I follow this particular curve, this will be my state point. If I follow this particular point, this will be my state point. The state points keeps changing because it's on the particular pressure. The state points keeps changing. I can draw on your HS diagram the state points showing how this particular. The state 1, so what I'm calling it as state 1 is the initial point. State 2 shows for the first stage. This is for the first stage. This is for the second stage. This is for the third stage. Okay. For each stage I can write. If I call this as point 2, so H1 minus H2, or I can call maybe the stage efficiency. The stage efficiency is equal to your H1 minus H2 divided by, okay. So instead of this 2 dash, I will call this as 2 dash. Okay. Instead of this as 2 dash, I'm going to, so I'm going to stop calling that as this thing. I'm going to call this as 2 dash and this as 3 dash, this as 4 dash. Okay, that is the point actually what I'm trying to look at. So H1 minus your that particular point 2 dash. So this is your 2 2. So what I'm trying to go, sorry, this is a 2 dash. Huh? Sorry, 3 dash 4 dash. That's correct. This is my 2 dash, 3 dash, and 4 dash. Yeah, that's right on the asymptotic. So H1 minus H2 divided by H1 minus H2 dash. Okay. H1 minus H2 divided by H1 minus, write it, is H1 minus, it's on the isentropic line, H1 minus H2 dash, or I can write H1 minus H2 is equal to stage efficiency into H1 minus H2 dash. Okay, similarly I can write for the stage efficiency. So I can call this as H2 minus H3. Okay, H2 minus H3 divided by, okay, this will be H2 minus H3 dash. Because that, see, I'm trying to see whatever you're going to see, this particular reference, how the state point is open. I am trying to show this. See, this particular point, this point is in conjunction with 3 dash. How your isentropic stage will they have to drop. If I have higher losses, how that particular shift will happen. So the stage efficiency keeps decreasing, which was supposed to be 3 dash. If it goes to this particular point, the stage efficiency will decrease. So this will be H2 minus H3 dash, or I can write H2 minus H3 is equal to stage efficiency into H2 minus H3 dash. If I call this as equation 1, and I can call this as equation 2. So similarly, I can write for third stage also. Third stage, fourth stage, I can write everything. For each stage, I can write and I can write it. First stage, second stage, or the third stage. If I write it for the third stage, this will be H3 minus H4 divided by H3 minus H4 dash, or H3 minus H4 is equal to stage efficiency into H3 minus H4 dash. I'm going to get us equation number 3. So now, one particular point you have to look at it. So here, most of the times when you are designing the steam turbines, as clearly told, the efficiency, the stage efficiencies are same or same or kept constant. I can't have different stage efficiencies for a turbine. Each stage will have the same efficiency. If I try to, when I'm designing it, so if I try to design it, if I try to tell that the stage efficiency for a particular turbine is fixed at 85%, if it is for 6 stages, all the 6 stages efficiency should be 85%. That's how it is. Maybe numbers may vary in the second or third decimal, that's not good. But when you're designing it, all the stage efficiencies should be same. This is about your how this particular what I told, maybe the state locus point or the designing point is going to change for a single stage and the multiple stage. Okay. Now, one more factor which you have to, which you might have studied in your turbo machines course is the reheat factor. The reheat factor, or it is also called as RF factor. What is this reheat? Okay, what is this reheat actually? Now, if you go back and see here, see, I can expand the same with expansion using a single stage. Okay, I can do the same work in a single stage, and I can do the same work in multiple stages. Okay, I can do the work in single stage, and I can do the work in the multiple stage. So now if I try to look at this HS diagram, if I try to write work done if it is a single stage, that is WSS. This will be simply H1 minus H4 dash. Let me call this equation number 1. Now, work done in 3 stages. I do have 3 stages. Okay. So, work done in multiple stages. So, here also you look at it. What is the work done? Actual work done, H1 minus H2, actual work done. Isentropic work done is H1 minus H2 dash for the first stage. And for the second stage, H2 minus H3 is my actual work done. If you want, I can write H2 dash minus H3 dash as the isentropic work done. Then H3 minus H4 divided by H3 dash minus H4 dash as my isentropic work done. So what I can write it for each and every stage like that. I can write it for each and every stage. Or if you want to go here, so this is my 3. So 3, maybe this is 3 double dash. This is called a 4 double dash. Instead of this will be H2 minus H3 dash. H3 double dash. H4 minus H3 minus H4 double dash. It's a individual if I'm trying to go. So instead of 3 dash, this will be. So isentropic if I go with respect to stages. Let me write that. So isentropic work done. First let me write for the isentropic work done for the stages. Okay. First stage isentropic work done. So WS1, let me call it as WS1. This will be H1 minus H2. Then isentropic work done for the second stage. H2 minus H3 double dash. Then isentropic work done for the third stage. it is H3 minus H4 double dash. So I'm going to call this as equation number 2. So now, similarly for the isentropic work, I can write for the actual work done for the stage. So for the first stage is H1 minus H2. For the second stage it is H2 minus H3. And for the third stage it is H3 minus H2. I'm going to call that as all the equation number 3. Now, what is your total isentropic work done for multiple stages? Okay, I can write total isentropic work done for the multiple stages. That is sum of W's I, where I is equal to 1, 2, 3 and all. So, isentropic for the first stage, then isentropic work done for the second stage, then isentropic work done for the third stage. If there are multiple stages, I can add everything. Here I have taken only 3 stages, I am writing it. So what it is actually, this is H1 minus H2 dash. H1 minus H2 dash plus H2 minus H3 double dash plus H3 minus H4 double dash. So if I have multiple this thing, I can keep adding. So this is your isentropic work done. Okay. Now what is your actual work done? So already we know that you can call this as equation 4. So what is your stage efficiency? Stage efficiency is nothing but your actual work done by isentropic work done. Or I can write, okay, I can write your actual work done. I can write your actual work done. See, actual work done, I can write in terms of isentropic work done. So, your actual work done is equal to stage efficiency into your isentropic work done. Let me call this as equation number 5. So, total isentropic work done I have written. In the similar fashion, I can write total actual work done. What it is actually is a summation of all the things. W AI, that is actual work done in the first stage, actual work done in the second stage, the actual work done in the third stage, and if there are multiple stages, I can write it. So this I can write it as H1 minus H2 plus H2 minus H3 plus H3 minus H4. Then plus, if there are multiple stages, I can write it. So now, actual work done is nothing but stage efficiency into isentropic work done. I can write in that particular fashion. So this equation I can write it as stage efficiency, which is common, into H1 minus H2 dash plus stage efficiency into H2 dash minus H3 double dash plus stage efficiency into H3 minus H4 double dash. If there are multiple stages, I can write it. Now I have clearly told that the stage efficiency is common. So I can write this as stage efficiency. If I take it out, that is eta s into H1 minus H2 dash plus H2 minus H3 double dash plus H3 minus H4 double dash. So this is your actual work done. So I am going to call that as equation number 6. So I write on the expression for your total isentropic work done, what is stage efficiency, and your actual work done. Now, what is this actually? If we try to look at it, this one is equal to this one. That is your total isentropic work done. Or I can write from equation 4, I can write it as your total actual work done is equal to stage efficiency multiplied by your isentropic work done. I'm going to call that as equation number 7. Okay, so this is your actual work done to, I'm going in there. Now, if the steam is expanded in a single stage, okay, so for the steam is expanded in a single stage, if the steam is expanded in a single stage, okay, in that case, what will happen? I'm going to write a simple turbine efficiency which is equal to actual work done by your isentropic work done for a single stage. So what it will be, okay, or your actual work done is equal to your turbine efficiency into your isentropic efficiency. So I'm going to call this as equation number 8. Now, the work done in case of a multiple stage and actual work done in case of a single stage, if both are same, if the actual work path, whether I go with the multiple stage or single stage, okay, if the actual work path, we call it as if the actual work done or path remains same, then what I can do, then I can equate, then equation, then equation 7 and equation 8 can be equated because it's for both are same. Okay, that means I can write the stage efficiency into its isentropic work done for the multiple stages is equal to the turbine efficiency into it is single. So let me call it as SI. So this is, yeah, isentropic work. Or I can write WSI divided by WI is equal to the turbine efficiency divided by stage work done. So I'm going to call this as equation 9. This is only for the same work done. Now, if you closely observe, okay, if you closely observe, if I go for an isentropic multiple stage, the path followed by 1 to 2 dash, if I go this way, that means if I come like this, go like this, then come like this, go like this, come like this, go like this. That means if I come like this and all, so this path is more compared to a single isentropic path. That means the see each stage. That means 1 to 2 dash, 2 to 3 double dash, 3 to 4 double dash. That means this path 1, 2, 3. I can write under this condition. I can write for the see why that is happening actually. So that is mainly because of the pressure curves are divergent. As the pressure curves are divergent, as the pressure curves are divergent, the summation of isentropic work for multiple stage is greater than the isentropic work for a single stage. If this is greater than this one, then what happens to what I can tell? If this can, this will lead to an the turbine efficiency greater than your stage efficiency. Your turbine efficiency will be greater than your stage efficiency. And this particular thing we consider the reheat factor. So the ratio of, so under this condition, the ratio of sum of work done in the multiple stages of the turbine to the work done in a single stage of a turbine, this ratio we call it as reheat factor, which is always greater than 1. This should not be confused with efficiency. This should not be always confused. This is not, most of them is confused with efficiency. This is not efficiency. This is called as reheat factor. So let's try to write the definition of it. So the reheat factor is the reheat factor is the ratio of the sum of work done, sum of work done in the stages, in the stages of the turbine to the work done in a single stage of the turbine. And this is called as reheat factor. It is sum of WSI divided by WI, which is always greater than 1. Okay, this is called as your reheat factor. Now, see, this reheat factor will drop with the decrease in superheat temperature. That means if I try to move from, if I try to put a plot something like this, if I have a plot uh, of reheat factor, okay, if I have a reheat factor on my y-axis and have my stage efficiency on my x-axis, so ranging from 0.5, 60%, 70%, 80, 90, and 1. So the reheat factor maybe it can start from 1, 1.02, 1.04, 1.06, 1.08, 1.1, maybe 1.12, 1.14, and 1.16, something like this, if you try to look at it. So what will happen? So if I try to take some, the pressure of the steam, maybe 10 bar or 20 bar, whatever it may be, with a degree of superheat. Okay. If a degree of superheat, if my degree of superheat is very high, so I may be getting an efficiency curve. So your curve will be something like this. Okay. Like this. If there is a drop in the your reheat factor, that is a drop in reheat factor. This is there will be a drop in your this curve will be going something like this. So this is for the a delta T of delta T superheat. Okay, this may be a delta T is of 40 superheat. This may be for dry saturated steam. Okay, what I can conclude is actually for a dry saturated steam, it is more flatter, and for a superheated steam, it is more steeper. The reheat factor. So because of why this particular thing is actually because of this actually my reheat factor it has been found to be varying between around 1.4 to 1.16. So from a dry condition to superheated condition to a superheated. So superheated condition, your reheat factor is high, and for a dry saturated steel, your reheat factor is less. So this is one particular reason why this particular thing is all depends on how you are doing your work, how much of work you are trying to do it. If you are work done in your single stage and